Hi, I'm Anne Sherry. I'm the Chief Executive of Carnival Australia. We're a house of brand of cruise ships. How did I end up in cruising? Well, it came my way really, I guess is the honest answer. I've done lots and lots of different things. I started as a radiographer. The motivation for that was my mother wanted me to marry a doctor. That didn't work, so I moved on. I've worked in government, I've been a banker, and now I run cruise shipping. So each of those changes happened because of opportunity. An opportunity came my way and I grabbed it. And I guess that's, in a way, the sort of one of my hallmarks is that if really weird job offers come my way, I'm probably more likely to consider than not, because I figure it may never come again. It may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And my experience now tells me that when you do big changes, you learn a lot, and it's incredibly sort of stretching, I guess. Whereas if you do the same thing, variations on the theme, it ends up being pretty quickly same. Well, there's not very many women in shipping in general. No. And I guess in a way, you've got to turn that to your advantage. So I stand out from the crowd, I'm colourful. I don't come from the industry, so I come with a fresh set of eyes. Sometimes that's challenging, but that's often a good thing as well. I can ask the stupid questions that everybody's forgotten to ask, because they assume that everybody knows the answer except them, whereas I don't. People actually have been incredibly welcoming. You look from the outside at industries like this and you think, oh my God. There are times I know they think, what is she doing here? But in general terms, people have, my colleagues in Carnival have been incredibly welcoming, but even across the industry, people have said, well, maybe it's time, it's a good thing, it's not as bad as we thought it might have been. But also I am challenging. I don't shy away from asking questions that I think should be asked, and I don't shy away from pushing things that I think need to change, including where are the other women in the industry, where's the development pathways, what's happening on the ships, why don't we have more female captains, what do we need to do to change all of that? So that's a conversation that I'm not afraid to have either. Well, there's a few things. I guess there's one is to make sure that we've got women in the field for every job we have. I think at the most basic level, you've got to be open to, everyone says they select people on merit. The reality is their fields are very small and they're very closed. So you've got to have open fields, and if you haven't got enough people in your field, you've got to go out and find them. So I think the word gets around that we're interested in doing that, and we do get fantastic fields, including great fields of women. So that gives you a much greater opportunity, I think, to hire good women into jobs. We have a talent development program. We've got components of that target women, because I think there's a component about driving confidence, giving women opportunity. That is, sometimes organisations say they do, but they don't. And there's lots of fantastic programs outside the business that we make sure women internally have the opportunity to attend, which gives confidence, gives engagement with people in other sectors, all the things that make you more confident when you're going for your next job or thinking about your next opportunity. We also have flexible hours. We've got quite a lot of people working part-time, including members of the executive team. So we practice what we preach. And I think that sends a strong message here, but also to our sister companies globally who say, oh, well, how do you manage with, how can you have, so our general counsel, for example, works part-time. How can that be? It's like, well, she's fantastic. She manages herself and her work incredibly effectively. She's got a great team, and I'd rather have her working part-time than not have her at all. So they're really the options in the end, and that's, again, that's setting an example, if you like, that those things are possible and absolutely achievable inside a business like ours. I guess it's sort of in me, if that makes sense. I've been asked that question a lot, and I don't know that there wasn't a moment where something hideous happened to me that I suddenly thought, right, this is the campaign. But I think it's that slow dawning, and it is slow. I left school assuming that the world was my oyster, And then you say, oh dear, that didn't feel very good, and why does that happen, and why are you channeled there, and so on. And then you get into the workplace and you go, not many women around here, and then things do start to happen. Like, you know, I remember when I was much younger, actually someone saying to me, well, you were clearly the best for the job, but we've given it to him. And you go, well, you know, why? And I did so. I said, why? Well, you know, we think he really needs it. And you're thinking, well, actually, I really need it too. So I think those moments, you think, well, that's just not right. And those issues then start to, I guess, you know, get in your head. And then when you've got opportunity, so for me it was as soon as I had opportunity to do things, and sometimes it's little things, you know, you stand up for something and you go, that's not right. And that, on that occasion I said to them, that is just not right. And they were very taken aback that I would even challenge it. But I know that made the people involved in that think, you know, maybe they had me as troublemaker, but you've got to stand up for yourself. And so those little things then snowball. Then, you know, you find yourself in positions with much greater authority, and that gives you the opportunity then to think, well, what could I do? You know, how do you get change? How do you drive it? How do you convince others that it's the right thing to do? I've found supporters, I've found mentors, you know, you find people along the way, so it has a snowball effect. It's never just one person. Well, I mean, I was at Westpac at a really good time. You know, it was a time when there was a CEO in the company who was looking at what are the big opportunities and how do we change the culture of the organisation. And that, you know, was a door that I just jumped straight through. So paid maternity leave was obviously, you know, a big win in that space. But we introduced on-site childcare. You know, whenever we built, which we did, built big facilities where we'd have a concentration of people. So we built a facility in Adelaide for mortgage processing. We put a long daycare centre on site. We did a deal with the local primary school to do before and after school programs for the kids of people working in the centre. So, you know, those opportunities suddenly become available when the organisation's thinking, what can we do better? How do we hold good people? How do we think about it? And of course then we started to get men saying, well, what about us? And we extended from maternity to parental leave, more leave available for men as well as women, because it's not just an issue that women have got to solve by themselves. We need the world to change around us for us to be able to really maximise our potential. And those things then started to roll on. So, you know, better leave provisions, then we started to get some executives working part-time, you start to get more flexibility practiced in organisations, then suddenly it's possible. I think it's almost the fear of change that jams organisations. You know, we couldn't do that, or you can't have executives working part-time, or you can't have this. In reality, you can do almost anything. If you've got a will to do it and you're really thinking, how do I keep those people? How do we work better? How can we be an employer of choice? Those things, if they're your driving forces, then the activity that sits behind it is possible. If you start from the point of we can't do anything, then you stay where you are. Look, in the business here, and I think those things are linked as well. So you've got to behave like the business you want to be. And for us, we're a huge consumer business. We know the rest of the world, and travel choices are being made now for all sorts of reasons, including, you know, are you a good corporate citizen, and is there something of value in what I'm doing? Is it just a holiday for me? Not for everybody, but for some. And so how do we engage in a much broader space? And how do we also engage with our customers, our stakeholders and communities we go to, but also for our own crew and employees. And when you think about that and you look at the places we go, you just go, you know, we go to some of the most beautiful places on earth in the Pacific, but to communities whose facilities are really 19th, 18th century in some cases. And you think, you know, with not much effort, we could work together to provide basic services in communities that, yes, they're isolated, but we go there a lot. You know, we're starting to bring wealth opportunities for people in those communities, but you can't create health services and education services by yourself. So, and we're not in that business either. So we've looked at working together with Save the Children and also the governments in the regions to say, in these communities, why don't we be more ambitious for what's possible? Why can't we have a health service? Why can't we have an education facility? Why can't we do kindergarten, you know, so the families can go fish or do handiworks that they can sell to our passengers when they come ashore and so on. And I guess that was the genesis of it. But for us as a business, the communities that we go to are a really important part of the overall business model, and we've got to be alive to the fact that there's got to be something in it for them. Our crew engage, you know, many of our crew come from developing countries as well, so we want them to feel proud to be part of an organisation that recognises the needs of those communities, and for passengers to be able to say, our customers to say, you know, we're actually going to go on that, because on that brand or on that with that business, because in fact we care about that as well. And maybe they don't initially, but when you come back again and you say, gee, look at that. And I think that's reflected in the fact we've put $1 on everyone's bills, you know, as many hotels do around the world as well, which is part of the contribution to the Save the Children building of health centres, and there's virtually no opt-out. You know, so that's, guess that's a really strong signal to me that people actually do care. And I think that's a sentiment that we've tapped into, and we care, you know, so there's a great alignment there as well. International Women's Day, I think, is a really important reminder. It's a celebration and it's a reminder. So it's a celebration of change. You know, it came about, most people probably can't even remember why we have it, but anyway, it came about as a result of a strike by a group of very low-paid women, garment workers. And as a result of that, things changed in, you know, their world, and that became the genesis of International Women's Day. I think for us in a contemporary world, it's a reminder of the, I guess, the things that have been achieved, you know, and much has changed, but it's also an opportunity to talk about what else. It's a great day, because it's a global day, it's a great day for solidarity across countries, cultures, well-to-do, developed countries, developing, you know, women who still have to walk miles for water. You know, it's sort of a reminder of all of that as well, because that tends to come out in much of the celebration. It's become a great reason for companies to celebrate their women and the achievements for women as employees, customers, stakeholders. So I think it's actually gathered a lot of momentum. You know, once it was quite a small thing that only a handful of people did anything around. You know, now the UN Women Breakfast, for example, that's conducted in many parts of Australia and New Zealand, gets hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women along. Kids, schoolgirls, you know, schools send groups of kids along. It's so it's got a different energy and momentum now. I think it's about what's possible and celebrating that sense of possibility and a sense of the future and the possibility of the future, even though it's bedded in the past. So it's got a nice connection for me of history and past and achievement and change, but I think ultimately it is about what's possible. I guess if I had to give one message, it would be imagine the possibility and go for it.